Everybody. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order at 10 a.m. Thank y'all for being here today. Just make sure that you have your microphone muted, and then when you want to speak, you turn it on, and make sure that when you're speaking that you say your name so it can be recorded and we know who's speaking. Going on to item B on our agenda, Angelica, would you like to call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Michael Fitch. Is he there?
I'm sorry, I'm here.
Okay. You mind turning on your camera for us as well, Mr. Fitch?
I am trying. It's not letting me. And it says I'm on here in two places. So I'm going to leave and come back in.
Okay, I'm gonna get your attendance real quick. All right. Ronald Abear.
Present.
Dr. David Schmidt. You might be muted, Mr. Dr. Schmidt.
Present.
David Weir.
Present.
And Presiding Officer Brittany Webb.
Present.
You have a quorum.
We will go to item C on our agenda. Robert Reyes, Assistant General Counsel, will talk about government training.
Thank you, Chair. Robert Reyes, Assistant General Counsel here at the department. Since we had a good training with Mr. Abear being new last meeting, we're going to fly through this pretty quick. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them after the quick presentation. Let me share my screen with you all. All right, so here is, we're going to have this training here regarding the, for the advisory board. We're going to quickly review the Open Meetings Act, the Public Information Act, and the Administrative Procedure Act. Thank you, Chair. First, some nuts and bolts. The act requires means that governmental bodies to be open to the public and be preceded by public notice. A quorum is a majority of the members of the advisory board here. Since we have 5 members, a quorum would be 3. Deliberation or discussion means any verbal or written exchange. That includes emails, that includes text messages, that includes anything like Slack or WebEx or whatever types of communications you may be using amongst yourselves or amongst your industry. Meetings occur anytime a quorum of governmental body engages in deliberation. So we are in a meeting right now and it was properly noticed. Here, notice includes date, time, place, and subject. So we have to have all that out there for the public to know that we are meeting here. That's one of the key concepts of open meetings. Some key points to remember. Always be aware of a situation where there is a majority of you because we don't want anybody to be speaking in regards to business that is in front of the advisory board. And obviously beware of a walking quorum. Walking quorum occurs when fewer than a quorum of members engage in discussion, but then start to communicate to others outside that original group. This is an example of how a walking quorum can start very innocently, but then if it grows to more of a majority, so 3 or more, we would start having a walking quorum, and that would incur some penalties. Walking quorums can occur anytime that you all are together in a group, whether that be in a conference in person or video conference, or just a hallway discussion or through any other communications online. The best practices, you should not meet in small groups. Don't discuss committee business, whether it be present or future business, or create posts on social media where there's a likelihood that a quorum of members could eventually participate in those discussions. Guidelines for open sessions. We must limit our discussions to what was stated on the agenda and notice to the public. Best practices are listed here and also in your materials. Civil remedies, as I previously alluded to, if there it becomes a walking quorum and there's business discussed and then decisions made as a result of those walking quorums, there could be penalties. Civil remedies include specifically stating that the action taken is in violation and the act could be voidable. Criminal penalties, you could go to jail for a little bit. You could also be subject to a fine. Some best practices, just reiterating what we previously saw. And some resources which are in your materials and we can email to you as well. The Public Information Act. Public Information Act is simply open records, and the act makes all documents, records, and public information relating to official business open to the public. If you believe that you've received a request from a member of your industry, please forward it to our open records team as soon as possible. As you see here, we have to respond within 10 business days after receiving the request. So a timely response from you and timely communication is very important. There's a presumption of openness here. So that means that the underlying presumption is that every document, every communication that is done or made or developed in regards to government business is going to be available for the public for their review. Some information is redacted, personal identifying information and personal health information. Some resources, which are also in your materials. And finally, the Administrative Procedure Act. The Administrative Procedure Act is there to provide public participation and transparency during the rulemaking process. We'll be speaking about rules here later on in the meeting, but a rule is a statement of general applicability that implements, interprets, or prescribes law or policy and describes a procedure of or practice requirement of the state agency. There are some things that a rule excludes. Some sources for rulemaking, legislative changes, which is the basis for the rule set that you will see later on today. Advisory boards, department staff. The last one is a rule petition. An interested person may submit a petition. An interested person is anyone who fulfills one of those listed typographs. This is the rulemaking process, boiled down, 11 steps in all. We are going to be here at this first advisory board meeting for the rule set that you see later on in the meeting. Rule review process happens periodically on a 4-year schedule. We're not in that right now. And again, some more rulemaking resources. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them at this time. Thank you, appreciate it.
Nobody has any questions for Robert? All right, we will move to item D, which is the approval of the minutes that we received in our board packet. Does anybody have any comments on the meetings? So can I ask for a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented?
Real quick, Brady, I'm going to take a motion for the November minutes, and then we'll do one for the ones for June 28th, since we have 2 sets of minutes to approve.
Okay.
So we'll do a
So
motion, a
this-
second set, and a
Yeah,
motion.
so the motion for November of 2020, so that was a while back.
Yeah.
So moved.
Can I?
Second.
Who was that? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch who that was. Who made the motion?
Michael made the motion and I seconded.
Mr. Abear, okay. All right, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Michael Fitch,
Yes.
Ronald Abear,
Yes.
Dr. David Schmidt, Dr. Schmidt, do you approve the minutes? I'll come back. Okay. Uh-oh, David Weir
Yes.
and presiding officer Brittany Webb.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And then a motion for the June 2023 meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is that Mr. Abear?
Yes, ma'am.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fitch. Okay. Do a roll call. Mr. Fitch,
Yes.
Ronald Abear,
Yes.
Dr. David Schmidt, okay. Looks like my recent connection issues. David Weir
Yes.
and presiding officer Brittany Webb.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, moving on to item E for public comments. We did not receive any public comments for this meeting as of Friday, correct, Angelica?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We can now move on to item F, which is the staff reports, which is going to be Regina Horton in License Division.
Hi, good morning, advisory board members. My name is Regina Horton, and I'm the team lead for the health professions team. And I will be going over the statistics for the athletic trainers program. I'm sorry. You should have a copy of the report in front of you. For athletic trainers, we provided a total for fiscal year of 2023 in the middle column. So for first quarter fiscal year 2024, we have a total of 46 new licenses that was issued, and we renewed 262 licenses with a total population of 4,390. And then we issued 19 temporary athletic trainer licenses. This concludes my report. Do we have any questions? No. Thank you.
Board members, no questions? Okay, now I will call on Ann Pascal for her staff report.
Good morning, presiding chair and board members. My name is Ann Pascal, and I am a program specialist within the Education and Examination Division, and I'm here to give you a report today. As you can see, is it on there? Yes. Okay. As you can see, the exam pass rate for fiscal year 2024 is slightly higher at 41.2% compared to fiscal year 2023 when it was 31 or 37.1%. We can move down a little bit, Angelica. Perfect. This is the breakdown that we have for written and practical exams. As you can see, second quarter is higher at 59.38% compared to 37.84% in fiscal year 2023. However, that is within the statistical norms because of the low volume of this exam. And then we can move to the next slide, please. This slide is the jurisprudence examination, and as of December 31st, the number has not changed from fiscal year 2023. But I do have some news to just let you know really quickly, so stay tuned, that we are in the process of updating all of our JP exams, and we will have more information regarding the athletic trainers JP in the near future. I also have some good news for you that as you requested from the last meeting in June, we have added an additional practical exam for this year for June 2nd of 2024. And the practical exam session will be offered at the Houston location. And that information is also located in the candidate information bulletin with the June date. So that concludes my report, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
And I would just like to thank y'all for putting that June 2nd date on there. That for our industry and for our memberships of athletic training, that is important to have that date. And so hopefully moving forward, you think it's going to be every June that it's going to be permanently on the books?
Correct. Yes. Looking at that, we are looking at providing an additional practical exam session within the summer months, so June, July, or August. I'm anticipating anywhere between June or July, and that'll be between either Houston or Dallas, but it'll rotate.
Yep. I agree with that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
David Weir, I would encourage your June testing just simply because with the return of results and the employment aspect of getting people hired, the sooner you could get them tested and either licensed or declined, the better.
Okay, I will make a note of that. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments, questions? All right, let's move on to number 3, Myra Rodriguez for customer service.
Good morning, board members and TDLR staff. My name is Myra Rodriguez, and I am one of the managers for the customer service division overseeing the athletic trainers program. So if you look at the report before you, we have, it's not one of our higher volume of calls that we get. We received 145 total calls and emails for December. In comparison to the fiscal year 2023 for this time, if you could scroll down just a little bit, we are slightly lower in amount of context. So it seems like that is just the trend for this current fiscal year. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Myra, thank you. I will say that y'all will probably get a lot of questions, emails, phone calls during the months of right after they pass their exam, and then they're trying to get employment, and so they're trying to get their LAT and their license moved through the system. And sometimes school districts and employers need it pretty quickly so that they can be approved at the board meetings and all of that, so they can have start their job. So I would suspect that, you know, July, August, September, that y'all's volumes would be really high for those who are asking questions. And probably also May, because people are looking for employment May and June as well. So
okay, thank you for that heads up. We appreciate it. I'll definitely let our staff know about that.
yeah. Maybe more people answering the phones at that time because they'll be calling.
Sure, thank you for that.
Anybody else need or have comments or questions for customer service? Moving on to enforcement division. So Victoria Mesa.
Hi, yes. Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Victoria Mesa. I'm a prosecutor for the enforcement division, and I'll present enforcement's report to you today. Thank you for being here. Happy Valentine week. I'll be covering key statistics, case highlights, and case prioritization for you. You can see the statistics for the program through November of fiscal year 2024 and all of fiscal year 2023. Overall, athletic trainer cases remain a small percentage of the department's cases. Of the opened cases for your program, 83% are closed in 6 months or less from the date they're opened, which is well above the 55% of cases that are closed in that same time frame on average for the department as a whole. So cases are moved along quickly in your program. I've added a case highlight to your packet to provide an example of a complaint case that was resolved by the department staff, and that's there for your review. Additionally, today I have some information in your packet about a project that enforcement's been working on at the direction of the Sunset Commission. The Enforcement Division has begun the review of each program's most frequent violations to identify and prioritize those that pose the greatest risk of consumer harm or injury. And the goal is just to focus our limited resources on the complaints that have the greatest impact on public health and safety. And we want to do that in the most efficient way possible. So there's more detailed information in your packet if you're interested in learning more about this effort. And that's pretty much it. I did have an answer for Mr. Weir's question from the last meeting, if you're interested in hearing about that. But otherwise, that's pretty much all I have for you.
Yes, I think that we would like that answer. I'll let Mr. Weir comment.
You're going to have to refresh my question because I don't remember it, so I apologize. So I thank you for responding to my question, but it might be helpful to rephrase that.
Sure. You had a question about I guess the concerns of some of the employers regarding complaints made against their employees and why they weren't notified, I think was the gist of it.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
so,
Yes.
yeah, just the short answer for that is that basically it comes down to the Texas Occupation Code, section 51.254, specifically B1C2. And just briefly, it says, except as otherwise provided in the section, because, you know, the law is all about exceptions, but basically a complaint and the investigation concerning a person to whom this section applies, which it specifically lists athletic trainers. All the information and materials subpoenaed or compiled by the department in connection with any complaint or investigation are confidential and they're not subject to disclosure. And we can't even disclose those under discovery or subpoena or any other legal means of compulsion to release to anyone. So, and that's just statutory. That's not a department rule. That's, you know, in our Texas Occupation Code that we are not allowed to disclose those. And like I say, there's exceptions for like law enforcement and things, but that's the rule that prevents us from disclosing that to anyone.
Thank you. That's what I anticipated the response would be. So thank you.
Okay, sure. But any other questions?
Ronald Abear here. I'd like to make a comment into this. I appreciate everything that you guys do on behalf of the athletic trainers of the state of Texas, because maintaining our professionalism and ensuring public safety and upholding our professional, you know, our profession is a super important aspect to us, because what we do isn't always looked upon as very important, but our work helps people continue to participate in their activities at a high level of ability.
Yeah, I
And we
absolutely
appreciate
agree.
y'all.
Yeah.
We
Thank you so
appreciate
much
y'all
for saying that.
enforcing these.
I appreciate that.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Moving on to number 5 is the Compliance Division. So I'm Stuart Myrick.
Stuart Myrick, TDUR Compliance Division. You have my report in your packet and it is now being displayed. I have nothing further to add. I'll stand by for questions.
Calling on any questions or comments from the board members. Hearing none, I'll go on to number 6, which is the Executive Office update. And I would like to recognize Deputy Executive Director Brandy Myers, please.
Hi, good morning, board members. My name is Brandy Myers. I'm the Deputy Executive Director over our administrative services. I want to thank you so much for being here this morning and provide you a couple of updates Specifically related to personnel, there have been some changes since the last time you met. Mike Arizmendez, who was our previous executive director, resigned, and Christina Kaiser, who was our senior deputy executive director, she became our interim executive director, but then she decided to retire. So congratulations to her. And so right now we have Brian Francis back. He is our interim executive director at the moment, and he will be here for about 6 months as we work on an executive search to get a new executive director in the agency. Another change, you may remember Steve Bruno. He was our legislative director before, and he is now our deputy executive director over our licensing services. And then again, I'm the new deputy executive director over administrative services. To give you a little bit of history, I was the agency's chief financial officer. So I've been here for almost 5 years, and I'm excited to serve in this new role and get to know our advisory boards a little bit better. So thank you so much for being here. And that's what we have for the personnel update. For the 88th legislative session update, there was only 2 things that took place in the session that impacted your industry, and that was House Bill 2495 and House Bill 2512. But those are in the next agenda item with Mr. Reyes. So I don't want to steal his thunder, but if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions, any comments from the board of directors?
Just one comment, and I don't know this where this falls under, but we as a board were not even informed or wasn't discussed, even an FYI, that there was legislation coming out of TDLR that directly affected our practice that was written by TDLR and advanced up through the agency. And my question is that how does that happen? And is there a reason that we are not notified of that and at least have that run by us? Because we were contacted, the stakeholder, another stakeholder association, the TSATA was also advancing some legislation, and there got to be at point in time some confusion as to which one was which, and I as a board member was kind of caught off guard as to know that, and as a TDLR advisory board member, that TDLR was advancing specific legislation that directly affected us, that, and although we weren't aware of that. So just question as to procedures.
Absolutely, Mr. Ware. I can't answer the question as to why it happened that way, but what I can say is that moving forward, we can definitely make strides to ensure that you are notified of things that are impacting your board as they go through the legislative session.
Let me add one thing. Robert Reyes, Assistant General Counsel. Just to clarify, Mr. Weir, this was not legislation that was drafted and sent through or sponsored by TDLR in any way, shape, form, or manner. This was legislation that was drafted and sponsored by either representatives or senators who had that on their agendas, personal agendas. But we do not write legislation and then have it, forwarded through the process, the legislative process. That's not what we do. What we do here is we respond to any legislative action, which are bills that are then signed into law or come into law after the session, and write rules in response to those legislative actions. So you're a little bit off the mark in terms of what you are going to see here in a moment when it comes to House Bills 2495 and House Bills 2512. But as a department, we do not draft bills and then sponsor bills to go through the legislative process. I want to be very clear on that point.
Okay, I guess it was the way it was. I listened to the committee hearings and it was just interpreted as that. So I apologize if I misspoke.
No problem. We do bill analysis, and we do have a team, a very wonderful team in government relations. 3 or 4 people usually go every day during session. And when there's a committee hearing in regards to one of these bills, they are on hand with that bill analysis to answer any questions regarding financial aspects or possible aspects on the industry. But just want to be clear that we don't draft legislation for it to go through the process, but we react to it and offer our insight as a governmental agency to the committees if they feel the need to hear that. I believe there's a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, was that, am I off board on with what I said? Is that what you understood as well? But please help me out, because I feel like now I'm an idiot in improving again.
No, I don't think that I don't think you're an idiot by any stretch of the imagination. There was some things, what I would comment on is that it felt as if we didn't know as a board what was going on when we got, some information. And so just like in the past, anytime that TDLR recognizes that there's something going on with our industry, if we could be the first ones to know, because we're the ones who get the emails and we get the phone calls and what is happening and what is TDLR doing, and they're, everybody kind of knew what was going on with the TDLR bill, I mean, not the TSATA bill, because they were putting that information out there, but the other bill, maybe we weren't as informed on. And so I think that's where we're coming from on that, if I'm understanding Mr. Weir correctly.
I'd like to expound upon that too. I would certainly like to know about any bills affecting our industry here. Our organization is very active in the legislature. I'm down there on a regular basis during session. I'm not going to go down and lobby for any of these bills, but I certainly would like to at least be aware of them and know what's going on, please.
Robert Reyes, Assistant General Counsel. We do have that legislative, anything that's going on that is affecting any of the programs that we regulate here in the industry. We do have that on our website. So let me speak to some of our managers who know exactly where that information is, and then I'll forward a link to where that information is usually stored on the website through Angelica. She'll then distribute it to you all. That way, for the next legislative session that happens in 25, you all will be good to go and can view what's happening with those bills that are affecting your industry here at TDLR at your wish. So I will definitely get that information for you all and have it distributed here in the matter of a few short hours.
Okay, we appreciate that. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, I will go to item G, which I will ask Assistant General Counsel Robert Reyes to update us on G.
Sure thing. Thank you, Chair. Robert Reyes, Assistant General Counsel. So we're speaking about House Bills 2495 and 2512. This was the rulemaking that comes from the acts of the legislature in this past session that ended June of 2023. This is a little bit different rulemaking in the fact that this was the source of this rule set is from the legislature, not from the advisory boards, not from staff, not through a rule petition. So that's why you all have the work groups have not been part of this rulemaking. However, that will change as soon as we get this rulemaking done. We can go ahead and move on to the items of interest that the advisory board has. Just to reiterate, I realize that there are a lot of items that the advisory board wants to move on. However, we cannot have multiple rulemakings going on simultaneously. The legislature and their acts take precedence when it comes to rulemaking. But as soon as we finish this, we will get to what the advisory board wants to focus on, and we'll do that with gusto. Moving forward, just let me share my screen with you all for the new proposed rules. All right. Well, starting off with section 110.12, scope of practice, we now have a updated definition for athletic trainer. Athletic training now consists of, according to what was passed by the legislature, managing the risk of an athletic injury or illness, preventing an athletic injury or illness, assessing one, providing immediate emergency care, which was a major addition and update as compared to the previous version of the rule and of the statute in 451.0013 definition. Number 5, providing therapeutic intervention for an athletic injury, and 6, reconditioning an athletic injury or illness. So this is scope of practice. This is now what athletic trainers can can do within the scope of their license. License requirements 110.21. There was a change of now the post-baccalaureate degree in corrective therapy with at least a minor in education was deleted by statute. So now there is no 451.153A3. There's only A2, which talks about physical therapy. A part of House Bill 2495 was the removal of the apprenticeship requirement that required a minimum of 20 hours of work per week during the fall semester. So according to that, we went ahead and deleted that sentence from the rule. And since now in modern times, seasons go usually year round, there was no need to have a description for semester. So we also took out fall. So this will allow the kids to get their hours and move forward throughout the school year and their sports seasons and whatnot. Standards of conduct, again, referring back to the updated definition in the statute. And we went ahead and, for the purposes of being clear and economy, took out the listing. So again, those were the drafting changes that were made in response to House Bills 2495 and 2512. We look forward to what we're asking today from the board members here in the quorum is a vote to recommend that the rules as drafted be published in the Texas Register. We anticipate a date of publication in the Register of March 8th, 2024. The 30-day public comment period would then end April 8th, 2024. And then we keep on moving with the rules for consideration by the commission and hopefully their adoption. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Ronald Abear here.
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of curious, and I don't know how much y'all are aware, a lot of the United States has moved into what we are calling the emerging settings, where they're into the industrial settings. And I'm kind of curious, how, does this affect those athletic trainers who maybe are in the state of Texas who are or maybe working in some of those settings currently? Because it specifically says athletic injury.
Give me one moment. I believe I have some notes on that. Give me 1 second. I believe in section 110.12, it used to say athlete. Now it says, I'm sorry, that was my mistake. Right now, what we have with this rule set is we have to respond accurately to what the legislature wrote and then passed, and then was what was passed into law. If there is an issue in regards to the emerging settings where the board does not feel like we have the correct descriptors, the correct adjectives to define or to accurately represent what is going on, then we can go ahead and go through the rulemaking process, discuss that in rule work group, and move forward with something that more represents the industry and the way we want to move forward here in the state of Texas. But right now, what we're working with is what the legislature has given us. I don't know how many of the legislators who were involved in this are actually athletic trainers, but now that it's in front of you all, we'll have the opportunity to move forward in that vein once we have this down. So that is, at the end of the day, a question that is a little bit out of our hands right now. As soon as we can move forward with the rulemaking, we can get a lot of things back in the hands of the board and make pinpoint pinpoint adjustments to respond to the industry.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And that would be during our work groups that we could cuss and discuss, is what I like to say, in our work groups.
Yes, ma'am. That would be the first. That would be the where the initial conversations would start. Where, that's where the fire would start, right? That's where we'd put. That's where we get everything all together. The ideas would start rolling, and then we can then the advisory board can react through an independent rulemaking process after this is completed.
Okay. Mr. Hebert, does that answer your question?
I believe it does. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments? I would just like to add that absolutely our work groups, as soon as this is passed, then our work groups will have our boots on the ground running to get to what we need to get done on our side to help our industry and protect the public. So, all right, so no more comments. Okay, so let's go ahead and ask for a motion and to be able to publish these proposed rules as presented for the public comment.
So moved.
David Weir moves. Anybody second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hebert, thank you. Angelica, will you like to do the roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Michael Fitch,
Approve.
Mr. Ronald Hebert,
Approve.
Dr. David Schmidt. I know he's having some technical difficulties. I'll come back. David Weir.
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, if you approve? Perfect.
You hear?
And I can now, yes. And Presiding Officer Brittany Webb.
Yes.
Perfect. Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Okay, moving to item H, which is the next agenda items for the next advisory board meeting. And I would like to encourage all board members to throw their ideas out there, please.
Well, certainly and Mr. Reyes, I understand where you're coming from, and that this law that came out of the legislative session that's trumping our other things that we've been working on as work groups. But I echo Madam Chair's recommendation to get moving. And so furthermore, I would like to request that when these board meetings are called, that we as a board are that there isn't a call for agenda items to us. And I know we have to avoid the quorum. So obviously individually, that where we could submit back agenda items. Currently our meetings are so far apart. In many cases, we cover things on these calls, but things come up, and then I never feel like we have an avenue to get things on the agenda that we need to discuss prior to agendas coming out at the 11th hour before they have to be posted, and then we can't add agenda items to them. So I just request that this gets treated. I've been on numerous boards and committees, and this is a different operating procedure that I'm not accustomed to, and that we always didn't have this, or it wasn't always this way. And that goes way back from my time at DSHS, back with Stuart and Heather, and up till the point in time that we joined and moved over to TDLR. So I just put that out there for my request and recommendation that we do that. But we do have some items in our work groups that are directly affecting the protecting of the public, that we feel like that we need to get in front of this board to start discussions with, and sooner the better that we can get a meeting scheduled for that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Weir, if you have any suggestions at any time, you're more than welcome to email me. So we can make sure I can keep track of those for our next meeting. And then also what I could do is like maybe when I set up the next meeting, put a statement in there saying, do you have any agenda items that you'd like to see? If that will help.
Yes, David Weir, thank you very much, Angelica. That much
Sure.
appreciated.
Great. I will do that.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So real quick,
Okay,
for the
Mr.
next meeting,
Ebert,
I
no.
do, oh, sorry.
Mr. Ebert had a question or a comment.
The comment that I have is I would like to echo the other two athletic trainers on this board, in that we have some very important agenda items I think that we need to take up with great vigor and expedite those to the best of our abilities to have them ready for the next meeting. Thank you.
Robert Reyes, Assistant General Counsel. Thank you very much for the feedback, and I definitely hear you. I've been in touch with Ms. Webb, Mr. Weir, regarding this stuff since it's been almost 11 months now. And when I first got on board, we were just in a very, very peculiar time where we were having a meeting right after the legislature had called was called into recess for its regular session, and so my apologies with the way the timing fell. I do hear you. I challenge my work group colleagues who are the liaisons between the work group and staff to get in touch with you all as soon as possible, so that way we can do as much as we can regarding the buildup to the actual rulemaking process as far in advance as possible, so that way we can do as much as we can for the citizens of the state of Texas and as well as the industry, so that way you all can have the tools necessary to help those in any setting, in all the expanding settings that you all are now into. So we'll definitely be in touch. We'll definitely get that going. And I challenge my colleagues here at the department to get in touch with you all and get those work group meetings scheduled. Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns? Okay, so recommendations, Angelica, do you want to go ahead?
So I have work group updates, which is one you and I discussed last week, the report to be given. Of course, the public comments that come back from the rules, and then work group assignments and tasks. You can bring up the ones that y'all want to discuss. So that's what I have so far, unless I missed something. And in the meantime, please feel free to email me if y'all think of something else.
Board members, anything you'd like to add?
Well, obviously, I still echo the work group item of fixing the temporary license issue and requiring the passage of a written exam prior to issuing a temporary license to allow a bit of vetting of any applicant. Because if they're passing through, there's just a process to be able to go through right now that I'm going to call as a loophole. And so because of the availability of the written exam and the ability to be able to give that at any point in time now through the testing agency, I feel like that needs to be quickly closed. And then we've continued to discuss the need for actual written physician delegation of authority to encourage our stakeholders to do that, to have an actual written agreement with an individual physician as to who is their supervising physician, and have that actually in a written document. And so I also bring that back as a work group that we have done some work on, but like to continue to advance those items.
Ronald Abear here. I'd like to put to a work group, if we could, ways to ensure that we can have those individuals who might be working in emerging settings, make sure that they are included on all of our rules that are in place, as well as maybe having to expand a little bit to make sure that they have due protection and that we are moving in accordance with our profession at the national level, not just here in the state, but at the national level.
Any others? I think we have a pretty good list, the prior list that we had, and then adding to this today. So I do know that each of the work groups, again, are eager to get to work and ready to be active for our state here. So if not hearing any other comments about agenda items, and understanding that we can email Angelica at any time with any ideas that might come up as we move forward after this meeting, I will go ahead and move to item I on our agenda, which is
Chair?
the.
Chair, I'm sorry. Did we ever have the vote? Recommend
We did.
application?
Yes, we did. It passed.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
It's okay.
Okay, are we ready now for I?
I'm sorry, Chair.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. All right. So dates and times for the next board meeting. The dates that were or have been thrown out is the last 2 days in April and then May. So the 29th, 30th, 1, 2, and 3. It looks like maybe the 29th, the 1st and 2nd, but we need to look at everybody's calendar and see if we need to, what we can nail down here, y'all.
Mm-hmm. So right now, I think I reserved I'm sorry, the 29th, 1st or 2nd at 10 o'clock. If that works for everyone, I can go ahead and get this squared away and notify everyone. No, David's shaking his head no. Okay.
No, for me, the first 2 days, well, the 29th and 30th, no way that I could be on a call those 2 days.
Okay. What about everybody else, the May 1st or 2nd? Does that work for everyone? I don't anticipate this meeting being very long. Is that correct, Robert?
That's what I believe at this moment. I mean, we all make plans, and then things are always, subject to what comes up, but I don't think it would be very long. I don't think it'd be as long as this one, to be quite honest.
Mhm.
So help me understand. So what we're thinking is that between now and this next meeting, maybe May the 1st or 2nd, that we will already have meetings with the work groups to bring back to the next board meeting, either May 1 or 2, the recommendations. Is that correct?
I'm going to get with staff, see if we can get those meetings scheduled beforehand.
Okay.
But does the 1st and 2nd work with everyone, or do you want me just to pull everyone after the meeting? So everybody can double check their schedules? They were saying pull after. Okay,
I'm good with May right now, May 1st or 2nd, but if you'd rather poll,
okay.
whatever.
Or Mr. Fitch, Dr. Schmidt, Mr. Aber, do those work for you? Either one of those days, we can nail it down now.
Either one of those dates
I can
work for
do-
me.
I can
ahead,
do
Dr.
the
Schmidt.
first, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can do the first, but 8 a.m. would be better than 10 a.m.
Okay.
since we're meeting by Zoom.
I'll make whatever I need to work. So
Okay. So May 1st.
And if we can move it to 8 a.m. to help Dr. Schmidt, I would ask if we could do that.
Is that okay with everyone else? Okay. Sounds good.
So in conclusion, then we will be waiting to hear for meetings on our work groups from now until May the 1st. And then we will have another email and Helica for any other agenda items that you might think about. And then we'll have our next meeting on May the 1st at 8 a.m. Does anybody have anything to add to that? Okay. Then I will move to item J, which is the adjournment of this meeting at 10:59. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It was a good discussion, and I think maybe we're all getting to be on the same page, so that's great.